running on a treadmill, and a minute before I went live with Eddie Izzard, the producer said to me, "Just so you know, Eddie prefers female pronouns," and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna say something wrong. I'm gonna say something wrong," and it was literally a minute before I got put through to her. But luckily, when you're talking to them, you realise that you don't actually use the pronouns, so
Yeah.
it's actually all right. I had to do my intro a few times because I'd say like, "It's an honour to talk to him." Oh shit, right, got to redo that bit.
Hello, and welcome to the Lock-In Podcast. My name's Mike, and this is Baz. Say hello, Baz.
Hello, Baz.
Do you know, Baz, I love saying that, but that is the last time we're ever going to say that, because for those of you who aren't listening, don't get too upset, but this is the last ever edition of the Lock-In Podcast. Yeah. Don't switch off, don't panic, or don't ever not come back. We're changing the format and changing the name as of next week. But this is the last episode. This is the last time we're going to be in our virtual pub, the Brace of Readlings. We've done 55 shows. It's been amazing, but we're moving on, and we are going to, as of next week, because we enjoyed the 2 episodes where we came forward with our mildly controversial opinions, because we enjoyed those so much, as of next week, this podcast will be known as the Mildly Controversial Podcast.
Ta-da!
So that is basically it's just 2 middle-aged blokes, me and him, just getting worked up about stuff that doesn't really matter. So it's amazing. So before we get started, make sure you don't think we've disappeared. So subscribe, click the button, click for notifications, share it with your friends, tell everyone. Every single button on social media you can find to press that, and we'll be back next week with the Mildly Controversial Podcast.
Well, I've got to say, I'm quite pleased that you said we, because it means I'm still involved.
Yes. Well, to be fair, Baz, after 50, this is our 55th show. You are, I forgot to tell you, you are on a 100 show probationary period.
Oh, that's okay then.
So you've still got 45 more auditions to go there, Baz. But yes, so this is the last time we'll be in the Brace of Readlings. Those of you who don't know what the Brace of Readlings is, Google it. It's quite a funny joke. Okay, so tonight, and as I say, this is the 2nd episode of our new season, and it might seem like a bit of an odd thing to do, to change the name and the format of a podcast 2 episodes in to a season, and it is an odd thing to do, but there is a reason why, and that reason why is that we have a guest on tonight who is the creator and writer of a mockumentary set in lockdown. Now, as you probably are aware, Baz and I met through TikTok, through lockdown. This podcast was born through lockdown. It was even called the Lockdown Lock-In to begin with. So we just thought that it would be an amazing way to kind of round this thing off before we change the format and change the name by talking about lockdown, reminiscing about lockdown, and plugging the shit out of a new show for Amazon Prime. So without further ado, let's get onto the show. The creator and writer of the show. I'm going to let him talk you through all the details about the show. Mr. Lawrence Prestidge, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being patient through that massively rambling long intro, but I felt it needed to be said. So yeah, welcome to the Brace of Readlings. I hope you realise what an iconic moment this is.
I know, right? Like, you told me just before we came on, it was like the pressure.
It is sad that the pub's closing. We thrived through COVID. We made it through that. But unsurprisingly, with the utility bills going through the roof and the fact that there's only ever 2, possibly 3 people in this pub, inevitably it's not cost effective to keep it open anymore. So we are closing it down. But yeah, as I mentioned, you are the creator and writer of a new show that is going to be on Amazon Prime starting on September the 28th. The show is called Keep Calm and Carry On. I'm not telling you. I'm telling everyone at home. By the way, I'm assuming you already know that bit.
Filling me in.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to play a little trailer. This is literally the most professional thing that's ever happened on this podcast, by the way. We're going to play a trailer for the show. It'll work on the YouTube. Not sure it'll work on the audio, but we're going to do it anyway. So we'll play a trailer and then we'll talk to you about the show.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
Sean, we're living with a monster! Sean! You're not going to believe what she's done now!
Never gonna be normal again.
And those who fall must pay the price.
We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know where.
Just call my name, that's it, and I'll be there. See you.
You are an absolute you clown. You were always a spineless little weasel, you two-faced
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
There we go. So, yeah, if that didn't make any sense at all on the audio podcast, then that's your cue to go over to watch it on YouTube because that's where it is.
Absolutely.
First thing I've got to say, someone on that looked very like you.
That's right. Yeah, it was me. I play one of the characters, play Harry Keegan. Yeah, and it was just a brilliant. It's one of these weird things. Like, I mean, I wrote it during lockdown. I think it was, cheaper than therapy, really, just to write, to kind of write a comedy, just to kind of make sense of what everyone was going through. And it's not really so much about COVID; it's more about the lockdown of COVID. None of the characters sort of get COVID, contract COVID. No one has to go to hospital or anything like that. It's more just about having, being in those isolation lifestyle with your family and just kind of driving people driving your family up the wall, really, because you're sort of treading on each other's toes all the time, and that's kind of what the story was about. And yeah, as you say, I play one of the characters in it, one of the families.
Now, as the creator and the writer, is acting something you've always wanted to do, or were you literally just keeping costs down?
Well, I think it was handy. It's one of those things like, can I do the role and save money? And it was, it was a bit of a think about it, but no, I think it was. Acting was something that I've always done since I was a teenager. In terms of theatre, never really done television before, and so it was a big challenge. But I think when it was just talking to the director and stuff, and because I am quite friendly with Kelly Shirley, who plays my wife Hannah, who's she's in The Office and been in EastEnders and things like that. We didn't have like a lot of time to prepare, really, in terms of it was kind of like we had the cast, we had the budget. It was kind of like film it now because we didn't know if there was going to be. We filmed this last year, and it was just after we came out of a second or third lockdown, and we didn't know if we were going to have a chance to how long we'd have a chance to film it, without there being another lockdown. So we didn't have too much time to prepare. But because me and Kelly kind of had like a nice natural sort of chemistry, I suppose, as friends and people that have spoken to each other before, it just sort of made sense that we kind of able to do the young couple married driving each other nuts with the kids quite naturally.
So you saying is this the first time you've acted in front of cameras and produced yourself on screen?
Yeah, yeah, more or less. In terms of this scale, like a massive, like done independent stuff before for a few friends and stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of like a massive Amazon Prime TV show, yeah, this is the first sort of time I've been involved in that world.
So was this made for Amazon Prime, or was it something that you made and then hawked out to people and Amazon Prime said, yeah, we'll have it?
I think it was, so we have a producer called Kaylee, who works so incredibly hard throughout the series. I kind of did all the the writing and stuff like that helped where I could. But I mean, she's kind of got the experience as a producer, I should say. So yeah, I mean, we had I know we had discussions with ITV and Amazon from quite early on, but no, we filmed it first. We had a budget to film it, and we were confident that there were going to be offers. Like, you know, there are people interested in the concept of it, that sort of mockumentary style of making it about COVID, but not too much about COVID, because you know, we didn't want to kind of, I don't know if people are sort of ready to deal with too much COVID stuff, and you know, when I was writing it, that was a bit of a challenge to do lockdown stuff, but without mentioning COVID too much. But yeah, I mean, writing it was just something that, like I said, it was cheaper than therapy and going through it all the time, and not necessarily having an agenda to where it was going to end up. But luckily, you know, Kaylee and her production company loved it and were very confident about getting it at home, and Amazon Prime was the natural fit, really.
You are now on a growing list of people who have an IMDb listing, so I want to thank you for that very much.
Like, Baz is keeping a tally of how many people we have on the podcast that have got their own IMDb page.
Right.
So
okay.
It's a bit like, you know, collecting stickers or something. Like you've made him very, very happy.
Okay.
I mean, I think the premise of the show is amazing. I love kind of the mockumentary format, and it's quite a widely known format now. There's lots of ones have been done, but it's I think the kind of theme of it will resonate with a lot of people, just because look, the last couple of years have been shit for a lot of people, but there has been a lot of positive and, you know, fun and things to make you smile and things like that coming out of it as well. So I think, yeah, it's certainly a subject that a lot of people will relate to. And I'm guessing that, like, you know, the characters and the situations and things you've put in there are things that you think people will relate to as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we say, it's not too COVID heavy, but you know, we put things in there like, you know, and everyone had to do experience the COVID test for the first time, and so, you know, putting the thing up your nose and in your mouth and stuff, and you know, there is natural comedy in that, so you know, it's figuring out where that was, and then just, you know, being in the out of shape, unfit dad with the kids, watching Joe Wicks at home trying to do the workout stuff, and it was just kind of that stuff that we tried to focus on, and as I say, just, you know, going insane because you're trying to homeschool, you're trying to keep the kids entertained, you're missing your family, and then, you know, having one of the actors plays my teenage daughter, and obviously she's someone that's missing friends and having a romance with someone, and you know, worried that where that's going because they can't see each other, and yeah, it was really interesting just to see all the characters who are at different stages of their life, how it affects them more personally, dealing with COVID.
How much of it was written from personal experience?
Quite a lot. I think a lot of it was just your friends telling you stories about how they're coping, and then just thinking there might be something in that, like a little seed of something, and you sort of really exaggerate it. You know, some really just funny moments. You know, people. There's this one person that I knew that we do it in a series that where they thought they had COVID and was sick from it. They didn't have COVID in the end, but this was during the first lockdown, and they did an Instagram live doing a Q&A on there. Whilst like in bed thinking they were really poorly, like, I'm going to do an Instagram live Q&A about you know, what COVID's like, and I heard that story, and that was just something I was just like, I've got to put that there's something in that in one of the episodes. So yeah, I think just hearing these little stories about how we all coped in lockdown, you know, going shopping, and you know, trying, you know, running out of toilet roll because everyone's, for whatever reasons, just, you know, decided that toilet rolls really like gold dust at that point, and you know, you have to get as much toilet roll as you can from the shopping. They put tabs on how much you can get and things like that. So yeah, it was it was really interesting to sort of adapt those little stories that you'd hear about into a television show.
I mean, it is really interesting because obviously, like Baz and I started on TikTok in lockdown, like, you know, hundreds of thousands and millions of people did, and that's how we met through TikTok. But yeah, a lot of my early work on TikTok was was based in lockdown, and it was just taking the piss out of the situation everybody was in. And it was like, one of them was like, first week of lockdown, literally like, the Tesco delivery guy turns up and you're spraying everything, wiping everything down one thing at a time, lettuce leaf by lettuce leaf. And then after a while, it's just like, fuck it, throw it in the fridge. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I do think there's quite a lot of inherent comedy in everybody going through the same situation, because it's quite a unique thing, and I think that's why that's the genius of writing a mockumentary, a comedy about lockdown. Things resonate with everybody. I think it's quite a unique, and you're quite lucky. I know.
Yes.
Thank God for COVID is not what I'm trying to say, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think it's about when writing it, the challenge was not to make it too heavy about COVID. Because I mean, if if someone said to me, "Watch this program, it's about families during COVID and lockdown," I would be like, "Oh no, don't really know if I fancy that." But we've really, when I was writing it, and with the producers and editors and things like that, I think we've done all a really good job on not making it too COVID heavy, and just is, like I say, it's about those things that we just all experienced, and that's where the comedy is, and it's not something that relies on COVID or lockdown. We can feel more without it being about COVID, and it's just about sort of family life in the houses, and how we've all been coping with each other. And like I say, it's an amazing cast that we've got together. Harriet Thorpe from Absolutely Fabulous, sort of making her return to comedy. Kelly Shirley, Jessin Piazzi, Holly Matthews. It's a really great cast we've got together, and and I think all the families are just so, although they're all linked together in terms of they're all sort of like the same generational sort of family sort of thing, they're all very different households and very different personalities.
Well, that's the question I wanted to ask. So is it a kind of interwoven like situation where everybody's related and it's just three different viewpoints into the same story?
Yeah, so it's three houses. So it's almost like this documentary crew. I guess the Amazon documentary crew have come in. They've sort of made contact with one family, but there's three houses in this family. So you have my wife's mum. She's another household with her partner, sort of the older generation, and then you have Kelly's brother in another house. It's a gay. They have a gay relationship, gay partners with their adopted daughter, and they're in a house together. And then we have sort of our house. It's me, Kelly, three kids, and my eccentric father who's come to live with us.
That's Frank, right?
Frank, yes.
Yeah.
Who's I don't know if did you ever watch The King of Queens?
Oh, I have seen it. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and there was this character called Arthur Spooner who plays this just really eccentric father-in-law in the house. He like lives in the basement sort of thing, very eccentric, and I love that character, and there was just something that I really kind of wanted the British. A British version of Frank Spooner, and and that's kind of how we started creating Frank, just with his bluntness, and that's how he kind of got the name Frank, really, because he was just so frank about
okay.
there's just suddenly, I'm in like the bedroom in one scene with my partner, and she's getting changed, she's got her bra on, she's getting changed, and my dad, the character, kind of walks in, and Kelly kind of goes, "Frank, you can't just come in. I'm in my bra." And he goes, "Settle down. I've seen better." It's just little things like that he's just such a great character to write about.
I love that the eccentric guy who could say what the fuck he wants because he's old, and it's just
literally
because they do exist, like the Father Jack.
Yeah, and he I mean, in the series as well, he's one of these people that's a very big conspiracy theorist as well. So that was fun to kind of have with COVID as well. Just I think he says, if you take the jab, your bollocks are going to be frozen off and stuff like that. So yeah, it was interesting just kind of having those little moments as well.
So as part of this, you're obviously a writer. Was the are you top to bottom the writer in this? Have you done it completely yourself, or have you sort of like joined? Do you have anybody else helping you with it, transferring it to like screenplay?
Yeah, I had like editors and stuff. So like I would write it, and originally just kind of had the characters and the premise of it, and then started writing the first episode and the second episode. And then then we sort of got editors involved because I mean I've not written for screen before. I've written kids books and done a bit of theatre, panto stuff and things like that. So writing for television was very different. You know, just formatting it was completely different. So yeah, so working with some editors that sort of dealt with television things before was really interesting, and yeah, they were really great to have because there's some things that work in a kid's book and don't work on television. So
Right. Okay.
yeah, it was really great to have that.
So in terms of like creating all the characters in the show, did you create all the characters individually and then sort of weld them together, or did they sort of like form out of the story?
Yeah, I think the characters are always there. For me, it's when I'm writing, even for kids' books or anything really, the characters I've always got an idea about what the characters that are involved. I think there might have been one or two characters sort of added towards the end of it, at the end of the writing, just when I felt like. So we have Susan and Peter, that are sort of the two older people that live together in the house. And I felt like there needed to be another character in that house. Just felt like something was missing, so I added a character called Danielle, who is the youngest daughter who's moved back in because she was a wag, sort of going out for a really famous footballer, but the footballer's cheated on her, and now she's sort of moved back home to her mum's house, and that character sort of got added a bit later, just because I felt there was something missing from that household, and yeah, it worked really well having this sort of you know thought that she had it made as a wag, and sort of been dumped by the fella, and now she's kind of crumbled back to mum and dad's house and is just all over the place whilst in the lockdown, whilst there's a camera crew there. So yeah, that was really interesting to add that sort of dynamic to the late stage as well.
So you said that it's a whole series. Is this one of those ones that it all gets dropped at the same time in the modern way, so that everybody can binge the lot of it at once?
Yeah, I believe so. I know we got 4 episodes, 3 sort of episodes and a Christmas special, where the family kind of all sort of reunites. That sort of first Christmas where we were allowed to see family kind of again.
Yeah, briefly for a day.
Briefly, yeah. So it was that was kind of the moment, and the nice way to sort of end the first series was just having us all kind of reunite after not being able to see each other, and just sort of seeing all these families that we've watched over 3 episodes dealing with all their sort of shit at the same time, sort of reconnected and having that moment again.
Was the idea always to take it to screen, or did it begin its life in a sort of different realm? Because obviously, as a writer, like obviously books are your thing, but screenplays and creating a TV series is a big jump from that, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was something that I originally thought maybe it could be a play or something like that originally, because I knew that there was something that I wanted to express about COVID that wasn't a kid's book. And so, maybe sort of living in Stratford upon Avon, sort of Shakespeare Town, maybe it'll just end up as sort of a local theatre, a few of us sort of perform it. But it had legs, and getting a few opinions from other writers and stuff just said like, this is like a natural mockumentary, really, rather than you sort of having these families where you just kind of watch them. It makes sense if you had like a mockumentary crew sort of observing what they're doing, and and it just worked out really well.
So was that somebody else that suggested the mockumentary element to it?
Yeah, it originally, like right from the get-go, when it was just thinking about characters and having having this kind of, I think originally it was kind of having the characters and then having sort of like I was thinking maybe there'd be a screen and you'll see the different families interacting on Zoom, and then you kind of have a get together at the end where we all kind of reunited, but just seeing a bit of chaos in Zoom with families trying to connect to each other. I think that's sort of how it all started, and then it was just thinking, well, no, there's actually something in this. Why don't you think about there being a physical documentary crew that's covering just the pandemic, because it's like a historic part of the way we've lived for a year, and they're just recording what's going on with the families, and when that idea sort of came about, it was really interesting how quick I was able to write it, because it was just a bit of a eureka moment, really, and yeah, it was fun.
Am I right in assuming as well that would you have to try and find a director that would obviously would sort of lend itself to the mockumentary kind of style? Because there's lots of pulls in that, and there's obviously looks to camera. Are they the tropes that are included in it as well?
Yeah, it was a really cool director called Martin Tomlinson, just having all the aspects and trying different things. I think that was a really good thing about doing a mockumentary, was you get the chance to do so much play, and just seeing what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
If there'd be a scene with me and Kelly, I mean, because the kid would be long days filming sometimes, and sometimes the kids would get a bit restless. They'd naturally start winding each other up, making a bit of noise that wasn't a part of it. And like me and Kelly are trying to do a scene, perhaps in the kitchen, as Harry and Hannah, and the kids are making just genuinely kids noise because they're getting a bit fed up with how long the day's been. And our director might see, no, this is quite nice that it's real. Like, the kids are kind of making a bit of noise in the background, and you two are trying to have a conversation. Let's film it, even though we're trying to do this scene, whilst their kids are kind of having a slinging match in the room next door or something, and trying to just to have that aspect of it was really interesting. And yeah, I think that was the great thing about having Martin as director, is that we just got the chance to play. We did takes where we would try a little look to a camera if there was a certain line that was funny, then we tried it without and just see which one would work. And yeah, it was really just a blast to kind of film and have that sense of play. We were kind of we had the lines, but we were kind of allowed to use them as sort of guidelines, really, and just kind of do what we felt was natural.
So is that your first experience of kind of being on TV set and just seeing the whole kind of process evolve from from a TV set at a studio?
Yeah, I've been to a few studios before, but this was the first time where I was really sort of thrown in the heart of it, in terms of acting in it, having meetings with the director before a take, talking to the producers and setting up the scenes, and we all sort of we were all a massive ensemble, like the crew and the cast, were helping out in more or less every aspect. It wasn't the massive budget, it was very much of a team performance, and yeah, it was really interesting just to kind of been thrown into the heart of that and see how it all happens.
Is Keep Calm and Carry On set in a real town, or is it like a fictional town?
Yeah, it's a real town. We haven't really spent too much time touching on it, but we always sort of envisioned it was just outside London, and that's kind of where we filmed anyway. It was kind of in that sort of North London area, and all the sets were their free real houses.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So was your own home included in that?
No, it was free Airbnbs, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Thank God for Airbnb
that allow filming, and it was really important just to kind of have that house feel, and for it to be in that sort of sense of mockumentary and lockdown rather than a big studio, and to make it look and feel as real as possible. It was important, I think, to have those three small sort of houses that we used.
So, have you produced it yourself, or did you actually sort of contact people and involve other people?
I helped produce it, but there were people that have kind of know their stuff more than me do, than I do.
Because you mentioned quite a few like heavyweight actors in there. Like, so how do you connect with those people to get them to be involved in the thing that you've created?
Well, I think I was quite lucky. So I had a podcast I did over the first lockdown, the second lockdown, and I just managed to, through my literacy agent, just get a few faces on. I had like Gary Lineker, Eddie Izzard, a few of these guys
Throw
on.
them our way, mate.
Yeah,
have they got any controversial opinions?
I'm sure. Well, you know what? With Eddie Izzard, that was she was running on the treadmill, and a minute before I went live with Eddie Izzard, the producer said to me, "Just so you know, Eddie prefers female pronouns," and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna say something wrong. I'm gonna say something wrong," and it was literally a minute before I got put through to her. But luckily, when you're talking to them, you realise that you don't actually use the pronouns. So it's actually all right. I had to do my intro a few times because I'd say like, "It's honour to talk to him." Oh shit! Right, got to redo that bit. But yeah, no. So obviously I had a podcast, but yeah, with Kelly and Jess and Holly, they just all came on the podcast, kept in contact with them, and when I wrote the the first episode, sent it their way and just said, look, we haven't got the biggest budget in the world, but like, do you like this character? I thought perhaps you could play them. What do you think? And luckily they loved it and said they'd do it. So and Kelly got Harriet Thorpe involved, who was on Absolutely Fabulous, because she sort of called it a favor with her and said, I think you'd be great for this part. Do you want to do it? And so, yeah, it just kind of happened from there, really. I think it's good to have those kind of contacts. So I'll try and throw some of them your way when I can.
Absolutely. Any of those that have mildly controversial opinions that don't involve religion or politics, then we're all over that.
Okay.
Are they still available, Lawrence?
Judge Rinder. Yeah, it's called The Shapes of Stories. So they're on Spotify, Apple iPodcast.
Honestly, I love a podcast. Whenever I'm in the car, I just listen to podcasts. So what's it called? The Shapes of what?
The Shapes of Stories.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I had a few, like Rob Rinder, the Judge Rinder guy came on. Ellie Simmons, Sunita. So yeah,
Simon
it's really
Cowell.
no, not Simon. We did talk about her and Simon Cowell, though. So that was quite. But yeah, no, that was interesting to have those guys on. So yeah, I keep in contact with you. So I'll happily ask if they have any controversial things to share.
Well, I've got an hour and a half drive in the morning, so I'm going to tune into find your podcasts.
There you go.
Brilliant.
That's the deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
You see if any of your previous guests want to come on ours and just have a drink, cock about, talking about mildly controversial opinions. And when I say mildly controversial opinions, we are talking things like, I'd rather not have a biscuit than have a bourbon. Things like that. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of level we're at. That's why we enjoy them so much. There's a fair swap. Me and Basil listen to every podcast you've ever done in return for you,
Okay.
pointing people our way. And we'll buy all your books.
Brilliant.
I'm really, really excited to watch this show now, because I'm properly like because I know you now. I'm properly emotionally invested in this in this thing now. So I'll be like,
watch it.
oh, I'll be telling everyone, oh yeah, watch this thing on September the 20th. Me and my mates on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Spent an hour effectively on a Zoom call with you now. Now we're bezies, so that's it. I'll just say,
yeah, absolutely.
My mate's doing this thing. Go and watch it. So I know a tiny bit about your background, but you mentioned before about being a children's author, but I know before that you were a teacher. Talk me through the transition from teacher to children's author.
Well, yeah, I think it was one of these things. I was doing secondary school teaching, so I taught drama and English, and yeah, I think it was. I miss being creative, because before I was a teacher, I was doing a lot of acting. I did pantos, musicals. I worked in Disneyland for a couple of years on some shows there in Paris, which was fun. But yeah, and it was sort of felt like it got to the stage where, as you get a bit older, and you have to sort of think about bills and having a bit more of an income, that you kind of think, I have to kind of get a real job now, and yeah, and that's sort of where the teaching aspect came into it. But just missed being creative, and it was just in my spare time from teaching, was start to write different children's books. Something that I always wanted to do, because I mean, being a big fan of Roald Dahl when I was a kid, that was sort of my I have 2 or 3 inspirations, but Roald Dahl's one of those 2 or 3 sort of main ones, and that just anyone that has that creativity, and always wanted to do it, and and sort of had this idea for a children's story whilst I was teaching, and luckily I guess people thought it had legs, and when the second book came out, my second children's book called Terror at the Sweet Shop, that was kind of my book that I was able to sort of go away from teaching for a while, and just been around the country touring schools and libraries, and done a few Waterstones appearances and things like that. And yeah, it was just surreal to think, your book that you sort of think of just in your head, just all these silly sort of ideas, is something that a class of kids might read at school and enjoy it. So it was difficult to to believe it was really, because you feel like when you're writing these kids books, you feel like sometimes you're being a bit silly because you're sort of going back to your childhood a bit, and you're thinking, oh, I'm writing so much shit. but, but kids love that. Kids love stuff like fart
Kids
jokes.
love shit.
Oh yeah, they do. And you make just saying the word fart in a kid's school, they're all in hysterics, and they think it's a winner, a fart joke. And and that's how it all happened, really.
So how many kids books have you written now?
I've got four kids books. Yeah, I've got another one that's I've got like two that's sort of waiting to go, but I think because of COVID, I haven't really been able to sort of press ahead as much as I'd like to with them, just because you kind of have been waiting for the tour to be able to go ahead to do school visits and stuff like that. But now the schools are back after some holidays, and hopefully COVID's kind of gone away. I'll be able to go back out there and do a few more things.
Is that the main adjustment to writing a story for children? Is it? Do you have to take something out of it, or do you have to sort of just take yourself back to being a child to write it? Because obviously, you could probably write about lots of different subjects, but do you have to sort of put yourself in a certain mindset to write children's literature?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to go back to when you were a kid and just think of like the funniest moments that you remember from being at school, really, and teachers, and your jokes that your friends had all that day. Something really funny happened in the playground at school that it just stuck with you, and just things like that. I mean, Terror at the Sweet Shop was my most popular children's book out of the four, and I always wondered why that was. But I think something in it is because it's the most sort of real, in terms of stuff from me, from my experiences at school. Some of my teachers really exaggerated, some of the students really exaggerated some funny things that happened with a stink bomb, for example. It's really exaggerated, and there's elements in that book that are real, and I think kids feel that when there's something sort of real element of real life that they can relate to in it. And real, like I said, real people with the teachers and stuff like that, but just really exaggerating their flaws and stuff and things. And and I think that's something that any aspiring author should really look to do. That is stuff from your own childhood, or if you have kids, your kids, the childhood and stuff they're going through at school. I think it's really important to have that level that they really tune into.
Are you looking now more down the writing more kids books, or are you looking more down the writing more comedy for TV or plays like you mentioned before? What's the general direction of where you're going next?
Wherever the money is. No,
OnlyFans.
I've got a couple of kids books ready to go. Like I said, I'm hoping I'll be able to write another series of Keep Calm and Carry On. Hopefully people watch it, and people want a second series of it, because I feel like we're just scratching the surface with the first, and there's more journeys characters can go on. But even thought about writing adult books and things like that potentially.
So I wanted to ask about that. Is there a possibility of transitioning into making into grown up literature?
Mate, you just delete all the fart jokes.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Yeah. It's something that I'd like to think I could do, but then I worry, my children's books are short novels. They're very sort of Roald Dahl length. They're not particularly long, and part of me wonders, have I got the attention span myself to write a story that's for adults that's that long? Because I don't know if I do like Stephen King. I'm a Stephen King fan, and I think, well, I'd like to write something like this, but at the same time, you talk, you have to describe, the light coming through the trees and through the window, and it's all that. Oh, and I'm just not sure if I'm cut out for
Sounds too hard, mate.
Yeah, too much of that.
This might seem like a really weird question, but obviously there are some great literature throughout history. Is there a way that you could take I don't know off the top of my head The Great Gatsby and turn it into a children's novel just by sort of breaking, changing the language that's used?
Yeah, there's scope for that, and it's really interesting to I often look every year new things come into the public domain, which means you're allowed to use it. Like this year, I found out anyone can use Popeye now. Popeye is fair.
really?
So if you wanted to write a book or write a film about Popeye, you can use him. He's fair use now. I think there's something definitely in that, and it's sort of retelling stories. It's finding something that hasn't been done, because people do jump on things. I mean, Shakespeare's stuff's been done to death in terms of kids adaptations now. But yeah, it is really.
Yeah, horrible histories have done the Shakespeare with fart jokes.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's the niche for me gone. But yeah, there's things, like Peter Pan's public domain, Alice in Wonderland. It's really interesting when you sort of Google what's in the public domain. There's just like a massive list of things, and there's something interesting about looking more into that. But then again, it's finding how to sort of make its own version of it, and do your own unique sort of spin on it. That's the challenge.
Right, Baz. Okay, so the time has come. I'll try not to cry, but this is we're getting to the end now of the last ever Lock-In podcast. So, Baz, for the last time, do you want to ask your traditional question?
Okay. So, Lauren, a couple of questions. Like, what's up next for you? And obviously, where can people find you and keep up to date with you? And what's in the pipeline for you?
Brilliant, thanks. So yeah, obviously, Keep Calm, Carry On coming out September 28th. Really excited for people to watch that. I think when people people being able to see it. I think once you getting it out there to the people is important, because I think it will do really well. I think we really had a really big fun time filming it. So yeah, I'm hoping people will tune into that, and we could do another series of it, because it's been amazing to create those characters, and we have more stuff planned with them. So yeah, Keep Calm, Carry On. Hopefully stuff happens to that in the future. More kids books coming out. Yeah, and we'll see if I can give a go with an adult book of any kind, or failing that, fall on Popeye.
So head to lawrenceprestidge.com. Is it .com?
Yeah, lawrenceprestidge.com. You can find me on Instagram under Prestidge Books. My Twitter is lprestidge7, and Facebook I have a page under just Lawrence Prestidge.
I'm going to go and follow all of those.
There you go. Follow all of those things. So the time's come. That's it. The bell has rung for the last time for last orders in the brace of readlings. The grumpy landlord's been round. He's taken our beers away. Me and Baz are off for one last virtual fight outside a virtual kebab house before we get a virtual taxi home. So that's it. The brace of readlings is no more. As of next week, we are the mildly controversial podcast. So tell your friends, it's the place to be. There'll be no religion, no politics, just two middle-aged social media chancers sparking furious debate about things that don't really fucking matter. So subscribe, hit the bell. Everything you need to do to help us to promote the fact that we're changing the name and we're changing the format. Please do that. Thanks to Lawrence for today.
Thank you so much. For fascinating.
I really enjoyed your company. Can't wait for the show to come out. Again, just to reiterate, it's September the 28th. It's called Keep Calm and Carry On, and it is on Amazon Prime. So yeah, thanks to Lawrence for today. Thanks to Baz for 55 episodes of the Lock-In podcast. We're not going anywhere. We're still going to be here cocking about every week. We're just calling it something different and having a slightly different slant to the podcast. So thanks everyone, and we will see you next week for the mildly controversial podcast. In the meantime, for the last ever time in the Lock-In, cheers everybody.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.